Hello, it's me. I am sure you probably remember I accidentally deleted a couple of my streams a while back, and two of them were the D&D streams with Sarah and Yoon. I thought they were completely uploaded, but I was wrong, and it definitely wasn't. So I asked them, should I retcon it, or should I type it out and read it? And they said they really didn't want it to get retconned, so this is where we are, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and try to recap everything in vivid detail the best I can. But I have it mostly written down. I'm going to try to keep to the script here. I'm going to do my best. Again, I'm really sorry at how that happened. Zelina woke up in her plant tent under the massive oak tree. She walked straight to Levi. It wasn't hard to find him. He was talking to a group of his workers. Some of them were monks and some of them were his brothers. There were 4 people there. And he was discussing the rebuilding plans for Yondor. He was talking to them as Zelina tries to interrupt, but he does his best to ignore her while she just keeps calling his name again and again. Eventually, she gets his attention and asks him to help her with her dreams, because he promised to help. He said that the tree could affect her since she is a druid, but she should try to talk to someone who is closer to nature, like his brother Zabin, and that he would definitely help out later when he was free. He said that Zabin was deeper in the town of Yondor. Yoon got off the boat with Meat Morph when they docked at Yondor, and he headed for the main town with Meat Morph. He got there and he found Zabin and Aeon sitting together. His curse had gotten worse as it spread to his face. It also appeared that the event that took place was pretty much over. The stands were taken down, but there were still some food shops here and there. It looked like it was the end of a festival, and things were definitely dying down for the better. Meat Morph, however, found some chicken bones in a trash can as Zabin and Rishingu started to talk. Zabin seemed nervous, so Rishingu mentioned it directly. He started talking about his curse and stuff. He said that after all this time, he kept saying that he would be okay when it came time for him to die. But now that the curse is taking a toll on him and he's beginning to feel more mortal, he isn't so sure if he's ready to die now, and that he's starting to feel afraid. Zabin started to get shaky and nervous. He was having a hard time coming to terms. Eventually, Zelina and Levi made it to Yondor, and they found Rishingu with Zabin. And Meat Morph was in a trash can head first, and he was pretty much stuck in there. But he heard Zelina talking as he pulls his head out of the trash can and basically charges towards her. They were reunited, and he was overjoyed. They shared a moment together before Zelina decided to speak to Zabin about her situation. Zelina told him about her dreams, and they went back to the tree. They passed the old storage cabin and saw Roxy sitting on the steps. She looked very bored. The group went to the giant oak tree where Zelina was camping at, and she touches the tree and felt her conscience was almost pulled from her. She pulled away and mentioned it, and Zabin then touched the tree and tried to check it himself, but he didn't feel anything at all. He said it wasn't really anything serious, And Zelina, being Zelina, ran up to the tree and jumped into it, giving it a big hug. And her conscience melted inside of the tree and her skin turned to bark instantly. The other three looked at each other and started to panic a bit. Meatmorph, being Meatmorph, ran up and tried to grab Zelina, which turned him into wood. And then Levi looks to Zaben and starts yelling at him. He rhetorically asks, "I thought it wasn't serious." Which Zaben replies, "You saw me check. Look, it's fine." See? And then he touches Zelina, which turns him into wood. Aeon then kneels in place and turns to wood as well. Now, more than half the party turned to wood, and all that was left was Levi and Rishingu. They decided to grab some gear to see if they can't dispel what was going on. And they end up finding themselves going back to the cabin where Roxy was. Rishingu sees Roxy sitting on the stairs, and he asks her what she was doing. And Roxy explains that she got grounded. During the Halloween event, after Tess, Abby, and Zelina left, Roxy was still suspended on the broom for hours. One guy found her eventually, and she had to beg him to let her down. He eventually did, but then she beat him within an inch of his life for making her beg. So now she's grounded for friendly fire. Rishingu said, "Yeah, well, that's what you get for being angry all the time." And she ends up punching him in his upper thigh as hard as she could, giving him a Charlie horse. Levi then hung her on a hook by the collar of her shirt. Levi and Rishingu then make their way into the cabin, passing all the artifacts inside, each one having a different significance. But they went for an amulet of dead magic. Levi thought that would be the thing that would get her out of there, and maybe Zaben too. But as they were passing, Rishingu noticed a javelin in there. He was certain that this was the javelin of Cairo. He convinces Levi that they should bring it with him. So he does, just in case. It would be wiser to take the javelin and try to touch the tree. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. He suggested that since Zelina and Zaben were magic users, it would hurt them using the amulet. So it would be wiser to take the javelin instead and try to touch the tree with them. Levi was a bit more hesitant, but then he decides to take the javelin instead of the amulet. He left it behind. They made their way back to the tree, and he touches the tree with Zaben, or with Rishingu. Zelina feels herself get pulled into the massive tree. Everything goes black until it starts to turn into a faint reddish brown. She definitely feels like she's falling, but there's nothing to show that she is going anywhere at all, until an island comes into view. Upon the island is an even bigger replica of the tree from before. She is falling fast and misses the island by a country mile before eventually landing on one of its roots. She lands feet first and feels no shock from the landing whatsoever. It was as if she stepped down from a staircase. And soon after her was Meatmorph. You could see his glow in the faint red fog as he landed by her. After that, Zaben, then Aeon. But Zaben missed the route entirely. Fortunately, Zelina caught him. She felt her hands squeeze Zaben's bad arm, though. It was a weird feeling of both grabbing a sponge and squeezing clay. Pus seeped out of his bandages, making it hard and slippery to hold him. But Aeon reaches down and helps Zelina pull him up. When he gets up, she saw an imprint of their hands on his forearm. Soon, Rishingu and Levi landed, and the group was once again reunited. Levi took charge in this foreign realm and led the group up the roots towards the tree. Rishingu took the back as he was eyeing the javelin, his true goal. Zelina was holding Meatmorph's hand as she voiced her concern about the place. She was very scared to be there. Levi attempted to comfort her. Don't worry, Zelina. No matter what happens, the scariest thing here is going to be me. And that did not work. Even Zabin gives him a look of concern, but they keep walking. They don't mention it. They pass through a tunnel of mud and dirt before emerging onto the island. This island was very strange. The grass was normal sized, but everything else here was gigantic. The tree was enveloping the view of the sky entirely, whereas Levi's cabin was way too big to live in. You would have to be at least 2,000 feet tall to even reach the handle of the door. They wanted to explore, but they agreed to stick together and visit the tree first. It was a very long walk, but eventually they make their way to the base of it. There is a hollow cave-like entrance there, and when the party enters, a feminine voice can be heard. "Ah, Zelina, my child, you have returned to me." A figure appears before them, a green woman with long, bright red hair, and her body is tightly wrapped up in leaves and vines to cover herself. "And you have brought your friends. What is it that you come here for, my child?" Zelina said, "I was worried about this flower in my belly. You said I would be reborn, but I don't want to die." The woman floats down to her as she speaks. "No, Zelina, you are my most dedicated follower. I don't want you to die, either. And I would never do anything to harm you. The rebirthing is part of the life cycle for us. In 20 years, you will become a dryad, and you will protect the forest and be given your own tree. That was my purpose for you." And Zelina replies, "Oh, that's a relief. I was worried because nobody would tell me what this was." And, after a moment of silence, Zelina hesitantly asks, "Could you help my friend?" The allmother examines him before a sad look overcomes her, as she solemnly speaks. "His curse is a magic that counteracts my own. Not even I can help him. I am sorry." Zabin would speak up. "It's fine. Maybe it won't be so bad." After the moment passes, the allmother looks at Zelina. "My child, before you leave me, I have a gift for you." She cups her hands as small green spores gather into an orb. It almost looks like the head of a dandelion puff, but as if it were green. Then a small wooden box grows around the orb and latches itself shut. "This should help you scry." Zelina takes the small box with a smile. "Thank you so much." "You are welcome, my child. Now go. You still have much to do." And after a bright white flash, they are all sent back to the overworld. Everyone wakes up in the grass. Levi takes the javelin back to the cabin, but Rishingu stops him. He asks Levi if he can take it, but he does not give it up. He even begged for the javelin, but Levi would still not give it up. So they parted. He takes it back to the cabin. Rishingu leaves the camp, defeated. Zelina stays behind with Zabin and starts practicing with her scrying orb. After some focusing, she sees a vision, but was unsure of when it took place. She saw the outside of a world from the perspective of a cave. Nero was in the cave, looking out towards the snowy flats, with his back towards the perspective. Snow and ice for miles until something came into view. They saw a strange series of rafts connected by ropes. They were gliding across the snow on these rafts, and upon the rafts there were pirates battling something, until Zelina finally found herself tied to a post, and her brother Alodin was piloting the entire thing. Rishingu made it to the docks as he watched the waves hit the water as the sun set over it. Before long, he heard a voice. "Did you get it?" It was Jerikai. He was looking a bit impatient. "No, I didn't get it. I couldn't." What a shame. I really thought you could. I didn't expect you to let me down. Rishingu turns on his heels and looks him in the eye. Fuck you. You probably don't even know the names. Who's to say I didn't waste my time? Jerikai pulls a scroll out of his sleeve and holds it up. It was right here. For you. And he tosses it into the ocean. The ink melts and smears as the fabric gets ruined by the salt. At this moment, Rishingu, in one swift move, stabs Jerikai through his heart. Then he shoves him off his blade. Jerikai falls to the ground. Rishingu grabs the soggy, ruined scroll and wrings out the water. I was trying to help you, you know. Rishingu just shakes his head. I don't need your help, Jerikai. Rishingu takes the scroll and heads back to town. He believed he could find someone to fix the scroll. He regrouped with Zelina and Meatmorph and Zaben. He mentions the scroll to Zaben, and Zaben looks at it. I can fix it, he says, but I'm going to need ink. So the four of them search the town ruins to gather resources. But when they do, they eventually end up heading back to Levi's camp. I forget who or how they found the ink, but I think they found it in the Yondor ruins. It's been a minute. I'm sorry. But they met back at a workshop, and the workshop was owned by a person named Koda the Mad, who allowed them to use their workshop. Zaben sat the scroll on an easel and slowly poured the ink. He waved his hand slowly and gently as he murmured some incantations until it was finished. Before they had some time to celebrate, however, a loud explosion could be heard downstairs. The group checked the room and to find there were watchers inside. Koda threw something over his shoulder that exploded and immolated them. You brought them here! I want them out now! Koda condemned the group for this attack, but they smelled smoke in the air. Koda stayed in his workshop, but the others left to deal with this assault. When they got outside, all they could see was fire everywhere. By druidic instinct, Zelina ran up the hill towards the tree, ready to defend it with her life. And Rishingu and Meatmorph followed after. After a valiant battle, the three of them were fighting 5 watchers, and they ended up emerging victorious. But it was a small victory. They ran back down the mountain and found Zaben barely standing above Roxy and Levi. Roxy looked like she was going to die, and Levi and Zaben were mortally wounded. They were outside of the cabin. They went and grouped up there, but one of Levi's weak and hollow breaths, he calls out, "The javelin. She took the javelin." Zelina cast a druidic spell to stabilize Roxy before she, Rishingu, and Meatmorph pursued the adversary. They saw 3 silhouettes, 2 big and 1 small, running towards the Yondor ruins. They made it to the square. There was a large group of watchers waiting. The woman had her back to the party. She was the smaller shadow. And to her sides were 2 massive monstrosities made from meat. They looked like gorillas. The group took the javelin and scattered, leaving the woman and the meat monsters. She had her hair tied up high in a ponytail. It was red like cinnamon, and her skin was tanned brown. She turned her face to look at the party, and the air grew thick upon her gaze. It was Ophelia. That is the entirety of it. There is a lot of details that I have missed. There are many things that I have abbreviated. And, there are plenty of punctuation errors. This was kind of a rushed thing I had to write. And I am only sorry. I am really sorry to Sarah and Yoon, because this was amazing seeing their reactions. But, here it is. I will begin their story again very soon. And, hopefully we won't have any more problems like this. Thank you. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.